The story begins with our main character, Zun Da Wei, at a train station. A man hands him a bag of food and instructs Da Wei, "When you reach Xi Kong, you must report to me." Before parting ways, Panajia also turns back to thank the man, saying, "Thank you, Shi Shi Yi, for the past 2 days of inconvenience. Oh, and if you have time, please help me take care of old Shi Fu." Upon hearing this, Shi Yi immediately bows in obedience. After Da Wei has left, the large man walks with Shi Yi and asks, "Big brother, what is the background of this band, Jia, that you have to be so respectful?" To this, Shi Yi asks the tall man, "Do you remember 5 years ago when Sha Yu was chased to Jin Fengshan and almost killed?" Upon hearing this, the tall man immediately asks, "Is it the time when Bao Wang tried to assassinate Sha Yi?" As remembered, 23 assassins sent by Bao Wang had pushed Sha Yi into the deep forest. It was at that critical moment that Ban Jia came to his rescue. With a golden silkworm in hand, and in the blink of an eye, 23 people died. Upon hearing this, the tall man asked, "So why did Shi Yi not give the money directly to Ban Jia and instead put it in a basket?" Shi Yi took a deep breath and replied, "A recluse like him does not value money. Giving it directly to them would be like insulting them." But over here, when Ban Jia was leisurely sitting on the train eating popcorn, suddenly a few girls ran past. "Run slowly, guys, run fast, and drop everything." All three of them reached their seats very quickly. The girl with pink hair, after sitting down, spoke up, "Mike Swan, tell the truth. Did you take so long in the bathroom because Mr. Yun was looking for you again?" The girl with purple hair also turned with a surprised look and added, "Isn't that right, Mike Swan? We have already rejected Mr. Yuan. Could it be?" Before she could finish speaking, Mike Swan interrupted, "What? Since we got on the train, he has been following me. If by chance he follows me all the way to the train car, what should I do? I'm just thinking about you guys, that's all." The three girls were so engrossed in their conversation that they didn't notice. Da Wei had already opened the third pack of popcorn, and after realizing his presence, the girl with pink hair turned to him with a curious look. "Hey, Chubby, why are you also in this car? I thought we had this whole car to ourselves." After listening, Da Wei pondered for a moment before asking the pink-haired girl if she wanted to eat century egg. The pink-haired girl was surprised when he took out a bag of food and said that she would treat him to something better, and then gave him a bag of dried beef. Da Wei didn't say much, immediately opened the fake pork package to try a few pieces and admitted that the taste was really not bad. After that, the two girls introduced themselves. The black-haired sister was Mu Za Yi or Mike Swan, the purple-haired beauty was Wanger, and the pink-haired sister's real name was Sinan Jin Jin, but she was called Sinan Jin. They asked Da Wei to introduce himself. He hesitated for a moment before saying that his real name is Zun Da Wei. He is 20 years old, lives in Jin Fengshan, and because he has never been to school, he doesn't have any friends. Furthermore, Da Wei's old master often calls him a glutton because he always eats like a pig. Wang Yu immediately saw the embarrassed expression on Da Wei's face and joked, "Are you the youngest one that you look so young?" As soon as he touched Da Wei's face in the right spot, he immediately frowned and said, "My old Shi Fu only accepts 5 disciples. I am the leader, so there is no other brother, only fellow disciples." After Si and Jin finished speaking, he asked again, "What do you do for a living?" He scratched his head and replied, "I don't know either. Besides smoking every day, I only know how to eat." Mike Swan and Wang Yu responded with disdain, "You're just a glutton." When Si and Jin noticed the beef jerky, Da Wei had already eaten 10 pieces. While they were chatting, a man in a suit walked to the door and said, "Mike Swan, are you having fun?" It was Yuan, a boss they had mentioned earlier. Yuan spoke to Mike Swan, "Beautiful lady, the other day you left me alone at the train station. It was too much. I felt very lonely. Do you know? I didn't even bill you for it. Lately, I've been short of staff at my place. You should give me an answer, shouldn't you?" Lao Yuan persuaded Mike Swan that the work there is very easy. Just carry orange juice for the guests, occasionally hold a microphone to sing a few songs. At this point, Wang Yu immediately interrupted, saying, "They themselves really want to go, but this man wants to tell his mountain story, so it's not convenient." Immediately, Lao Yuan's eyes turned to Da Wei, and he did not care about that contemptuous look. Da Wei even asked, "Lao Yuan, do you want to eat the century egg?" Seeing her good plan disrupted and unable to naturally cause trouble, Lao Yuan angrily left. However, he believed that soon Mike Swan and the other two would have to kneel down and beg for forgiveness from him. After the stubborn guy left, Mike Swan immediately turned to thank Da Wei, making him bewildered. "I didn't do anything to be thanked for, did I?" However, immediately after that, a hoarse scream rang out outside. Lao Lin, wake up. Where's the doctor? Hurry and save my Lao Lin's life." The three girls were very surprised to hear the name Lao Lin, and this attracted a lot of attention on the train. Mike Swan's group also quickly ran to see the situation. Over here, the situation with Mr. Lin is really not good at all. His whole body is bruised and swollen. Blood is coming out of his nose and mouth nonstop. As soon as the doctor arrived, he told everyone to quickly peel off the skin to allow air circulation. Seeing the man's condition, the doctor felt uneasy because the victim had lost too much blood. When Da Wei went to check, he caught a sly smile from Mr. Yun. With his medical expertise, the doctor, after checking the eyesight and extracting a tooth, turned to everyone and said, "Blood is rushing to the brain suddenly. Everyone should prepare for a funeral." Mr. Lin, wearing glasses, immediately exclaimed, "How can blood rush to the brain?" "Doctor, check again. You might be mistaken." After seeing Mr. Yuan's sly smile, Da Wei called Mike Swan and asked, "Has he offended anyone recently?" Mike Swan, after thinking, replied, "No. Mr. Lin is very good and never causes trouble with anyone." Then Da Wei went to check on Mr. Lin's condition. Meanwhile, the nearsighted brother was still begging the doctor to save the old frail body. Seeing Mr. Lin in constant pain, Da Wei touched his ear, then lightly on his chest. A source of evil spirit's power began to emerge, and Da Wei sensed that inside Master Lin's chest there was a spiritual insect. Da Wei sighed softly. "Whoever is guilty. Why would you go and offend the insect master?" With that, Da Wei took out a needle from his pocket. "This time, consider it my act of virtue coming down from the mountain." Without saying much, Da Wei immediately stuck his needle down, and everyone around could see this. They wondered what he was up to. Old Yuan also silently muttered to himself, "Is this fat guy trying to ruin my good plan again?" Then he shouted loudly, "Where did this country bumpkin come from? How dare you interfere with something so important?" Ignoring those words, Da Wei continued his work. He muttered the spell in his mouth, Alart Ascender and Atmio. As for the Yuan family, as soon as they saw their plan about to be exposed, they rushed to stop Da Wei. However, before the old man could lay a hand on him, a dark serpent suddenly appeared out of nowhere, directly threatening the Yuan family and causing him to fall backward. A nearby man recognized this as an ancient and extremely powerful type of conjuring. From within Da Wei's hand, a sudden burst of golden light also emerged. This scene astonished everyone around, as it was indeed the legendary golden silkworm. Da Wei immediately ordered it to enter into the body of Old Man Lin. People panicked and called for a doctor, thinking someone was trying to harm Old Man Lin. In the young man's eyes, Old Man Lin's condition gradually improved and his complexion returned to a healthy color. The young man with glasses approached Da Wei to inquire about what had just happened. But Da Wei turned to everyone and said, "Don't move. If you want Old Man Lin to come back to life, it's best to stay away." The young man pleaded with Da Wei to save his boss. Da Wei pointed to Old Man Lin's nose, and from inside, the golden silkworm pulled out a reddish-brown worm. Mike Swan also asked what was going on. Da Wei replied, "It's okay, it's just a small bug," and then he ordered his golden silkworm to kill the worm. As to saving people, Da Wei continued to take out a pill from his pocket and stuffed it into Mr. Lin's mouth. Immediately, Mr. Lin opened his eyes and sat up, throwing up the remaining poisonous blood. At this moment, everyone was happy and ran to ask how Mr. Lin was feeling in his body. He hesitated as if he didn't remember what had just happened. Sing and Jin immediately said that Da Wei was the one who saved him just now, and he should thank him for that. Mr. Lin looked at Da Wei and asked, "Did you save me? How should I thank you?" After thinking for a while, Da Wei pointed to Mike Swan and said, "Mr. Lin, just ask her to give you more grilled squid. That's enough." Meanwhile, seeing his plan fail, Yuan acted very angry. He went into a room at the end of the train compartment and said, "Two experts. Mr. Lin was saved by a fat guy." From behind, a man in a very strange outfit asked, "A fat guy?" Yuan quickly replied, "That's right. It seems like he knows a bit of insect manipulation." At this point, a man sitting in the corner of the room also spoke up. "It's okay, forgive them for now. Even though they escaped this time, it doesn't mean they will escape next time." Returning to our main character, Da Wei is now sitting and enjoying the meal that Mr. Lin has prepared for him. Mr. Lin asks Da Wei, "Did the blood rush to your head and make you lose your mind just now?" Da Wei doesn't hesitate to answer, "No, if the blood rushed to my head, I think you would have been dead a long time ago." Da Wei then asks, "Have you harmed anyone recently?" Mr. Lin is a little surprised by the question and says, "No, I'm just a filmmaker. I don't do anything to harm others." According to Da Wei, Mr. Lin's ignorance is not a problem, but from now on, you should be careful because surely this person will come again. Then you will know who the mastermind is. After hearing this, although a little confused, Mr. Lin just ignores it. He then asks Da Wei, "Have you watched any movies before?" Da Wei quickly responds, "Of course I have. I was sick a few years ago, so I didn't watch, but I started watching it again in the past 2 years. I have received a movie disc as a gift, but I prefer Western movies to Japanese ones because Japanese movies cover too much." Here, Lao Lin asked again, "Da Wei, do you like any actresses?" Da Wei thought for a moment and replied, "I like Yuan Kami, but she just retired. Imai Fukuda is okay, but her acting is a bit poor. Only Melody Marks from the USA is the best." Lao Lin was completely clueless. He said, "I'd never heard of any of the actresses Da Wei mentioned." The assistant beside him couldn't help but burst out laughing. He leaned over and whispered to Lao Lin, "They are all extremely beautiful and famous actresses. If necessary, you can look them up online." The scene shifted to that evening when Da Wei was sleeping. Suddenly he woke up. Da Wei thought to himself, "Lao Lin's personality isn't bad. Moreover, he just treated me to a meal. So, to repay his kindness, I'll decide to help him find out who's behind this." Meanwhile, outside, Lao Yuan and the other two insect masters finally arrived. The peculiar energy they emitted could be easily felt even inside the room where Da Wei was. Upon entering, Lao Yuan was pleased to see Lao Lin sleeping. However, to his surprise, Lao Lin sat up and turned on the light, asking, "Mr. Yuan, what are you doing here?" Involuntarily, Lao Lin remembered Da Wei's earlier question. Soon, those people will come. Connecting all the dots, Lao Lin exclaimed, "It's you, isn't it, Mr. Yuan? You're the one who poisoned me." Unable to hide his half-name, Yuan was not hesitant to admit, "That's right, it's me. Both you and the fat guy won't be able to escape today. You not avoiding disaster last time doesn't mean you can avoid it this time." Suddenly, a voice from behind rang out, "Unbraidable charm, transmogrifian torture, teeth straightening spell." He continued, "Insect master that old Yuan invited are all ignorant about spiritual insect, not even telling you this." At this point, the two other insect masters also advanced and said, "Damn fat guy, the tone of voice isn't small, huh?" He approached Da Wei and asked, "Who are you saying has no knowledge of spiritual insect?" In addition, he also urged Da Wei to quickly report to the martial arts school to save his life. Upon hearing this, Da Wei did not hesitate to reply, "Not the martial arts school, just a terrifying old man who raised me for 18 years in the Jinfeng Mountains." Listen to this, the younger brother spoke loudly. "Is that Jinfeng Mountain the place where the animals there are no longer intact? Even the brave ones have to take a different route." However, the elder brother was different. When he heard about Jinfeng Mountain, he immediately said, "Younger brother, stop." But the other one did not listen. He continued, "Death must also be painful for Da Wei and Old Lin. Yuan has given us $1 million to deal with this matter. In addition, I also heard that there is a very beautiful girl on this trip. So after we finish this, we can have some fun." At this point, Da Wei did not hesitate and immediately replied, "Is that $1 million for me? You know that the dead cannot use money. At most, I will burn some paper money for you to find some beautiful babes." Provoked like that, the younger brother immediately unleashed his spiritual insect to attack Da Wei. This is the King Shu insect, extremely toxic. A touch means certain death. In the face of this, Old Lin immediately warned Da Wei to be careful. However, Da Wei not only did not avoid it, but directly grabbed the spiritual insect with his bare hands, which surprised the younger brother. However, before he could speak up, Da Wei spoke first. "The grilled King Shu insect has a very fragrant smell. It goes well with the wine that old Shi Fu has at home. I also brought some insects. It's a pity we can't make a fire on the train. Otherwise, I would have invited you to eat with me." After saying that, Da Wei immediately put the insect into his mouth and chewed it vigorously. Then he asked, "Younger brother, do you know why there is not a single intact animal left in Jin Fengshan? It's all because of me." As he spoke, like a gust of wind, Da Wei appeared behind that younger brother, making Lao Yuan scared to the point of wanting to go to the bathroom, and elder brother remained completely still. Younger brother felt as if a large and ferocious anaconda was in front of him. Then Da Wei turned to ask elder brother, "Aren't you going to do anything? Come on, either fight me or let me come to you." After that, Da Wei let go of the younger brother, who was now foaming at the mouth as if in shock, and Lao Lin, who saw this terrifying side of Da Wei, was a bit worried. "I don't know if this is really the Da Wei I know." Returning as soon as Da Wei approached, the named elder brother had already knelt down and shouted loudly, "Please forgive me, I did not know Ban Jia was here, so I caused trouble. Please punish Ban Jia." Before this statement, Da Wei was very surprised, and he asked the elder brother, "Why do you know my identity?" The name then replied that Diao Dudu is his father. After hearing this, Da Wei pondered, not knowing who Diao Dudu was. The name sounded strange but familiar. The elder brother continued, "Diao Dudu is his name at the martial arts school. He is my father. His real name is Dadanai." Upon hearing this name, Da Wei exclaimed, "Wow, so you are the son of Dadani. Then you are also considered my grandchild. I will forgive you. Quickly clean up this place, and remember to send my regards to fifth disciple when you return." The elder brother immediately bowed his head. "Thank you, Da Wei, for sparing my life." After dealing with the body of the younger brother, the Ning asked Da Wei how to deal with the Yun family. Immediately, Da Wei pulled Lao Lin to ask, "Why did this wretch harm you?" Lao Lin replied, "At the school, he said he wanted to use inappropriate behavior with some new female students. I refused, and perhaps that is why he harbored resentment." Upon hearing these words, Da Wei's face darkened involuntarily. "I really can't accept such a despicable plan." Finally, Da Wei told the other elder brother, "Just cut off his tendons and throw them somewhere. That will be enough." The criminal then took the two others and left during the night, leaving only two people behind. At that moment, Old Lin asked Da Wei, "Did you really eat that poisonous centipede?" Da Wei replied, "You don't have to worry, that kind of centipede is just a snack for me." Then Old Lin asked Da Wei, "Who were those people just now?" Da Wei responded, "Those people were nothing special, just the insect master from Xai Kong and his followers. That's all, I think." Curious about Da Wei's background, Old Lin asked how Da Wei came to be who he was. Da Wei then revealed that he was actually an insect master and used to live with his old master in Jin Fengshan. But one day, speaking of this, Da Wei recalled the past. That day was just like any other day when he was lurking to steal from his old Shifu. Suddenly, from the bushes, Da Wei dashed out like a wild animal, and his necklace opened to release 3 snakes. However, old Shifu easily pushed Da Wei back with just one strike. Knowing he couldn't fight back, Da Wei immediately called for his golden silkworm for support, and they both attacked together. Still, old Shifu was able to push Da Wei back with one hand and successfully suppress the golden silkworm with the other. Old Shifu then said, "You greedy boy, it seems you have trained your body immune to poison." Da Wei slowly got up and responded, "Old man, it's appalling how you are so ruthless towards your own apprentice. Tell me, why did you call me here?" Old Shifu then asked Da Wei, "Do you know why I called you a greedy boy?" Da Wei quickly replied, "What's with the odd question? Didn't you lure me up the mountain with a piece of candy back then?" Old Shifu asked again, "Da Wei, do you blame me for that?" Da Wei also didn't hesitate to reply, "Blame what? I am the 9 yin deadly scripture. If it wasn't for Master helping me change one's fate for 18 years, I probably wouldn't have survived until now. Moreover, this is also my parents' wish. I thank you. How can you blame me?" However, Da Wei later revealed the truth that he blamed old Shifu for something. That was last year when a foreign couple came for a medical checkup. Shifu examined the girl and then maybe checked for that old man. This is really unacceptable. If 2 master and disciple each enjoy a little bit, what's wrong with that? Old Shifu also knew why Da Wei had been calling him a miserable old man since last year, and suddenly he took out a manuscript and said to Da Wei, "This is the way to cure the 9 yin deadly scripture." It turns out that since birth, Da Wei has carried the fate named in the Death Note, but Da Wei is a martial arts genius with insect manipulation. In the past, when his potential was not high, old Shifu could still use insect manipulation to help him, but now the body immune to poison in Da Wei is life-threatening. The next step can only rely on him. Old Shifu instructed that when Da Wei's potential increases by 1 level, he must collect the things written in this manuscript within a month in order to survive. With the manuscript in hand, Da Wei wondered, is this really effective? He said to old Shifu, "Now that I have achieved a body immune to poison, will these things really be helpful?" Old Shifu smiled and replied, "If you can reach the state of seeing the triple world, that is your destiny." Da Wei pursed his lips and said, "Just be honest, stop pretending to be mysterious." However, after opening the manuscript and reading it, Da Wei exclaimed to old Shifu, "Wow, Shifu, how am I supposed to find these things? Just finding a piece of the heart of the jade is already mission impossible." Old Shifu shook his head and turned away, saying, "Whether you find it or not is your problem. I've given you the information, now stop complaining." He also added, "Inside, there is the address of your parents. After you pack your things, go down the mountain and find Ji Shi Yi. He will arrange for your return home." Old Shifu pondered for a moment and continued, "Da Wei, there is an old saying, nothing lasts forever. Don't be reluctant to leave because you don't belong here. I have raised you for 18 years. Our master and disciple relationship is enough. If you have time in the future, come back and visit me." Arriving here, suddenly tears fell from Da Wei's eyes. He said, "I really can't bear to leave old Shifu. I really regret not being able to make any progress in the 18 years I've been here. It's a big loss in one's life." Hearing this, old Shifu immediately threw a basket at his foolish apprentice. "Get out of here quickly." The next morning, Da Wei carried the basket down the mountain. The animals here were in an uproar when they saw him leaving. Thank goodness, this troublemaker has finally left independence, freedom, and happiness forever. The scene changes to Zhan Shangjing. A nearsighted older brother was standing looking at his phone, muttering to himself, "Still waiting, and they haven't arrived." Suddenly, Da Wei called out loudly from behind, "Hey, second disciple, I'm here." The nearsighted older brother, upon seeing him, exclaimed, "Oh, big brother." He then ran over to embrace Da Wei, saying affectionately, "Big brother, I miss you so much. I haven't bonded with anyone else like I have with you." Not until the two people finished chatting did second disciple see the man behind was Master Lin. After seeing the affectionate embrace of the two, Master Lin also asked in surprise, "Oh, Professor Fang, are you and Da Wei?" Quickly, Fang explained and introduced to Master Lin that this is his big brother, and Da Wei didn't want to be labeled as gay, so he also proved that this is just long-lost brothers being a bit too excited. Then Da Wei asked why Fang and Master Lin knew each other. Fang pondered for a moment and then said that he is the doctor treating Master Lin's grandmother, who has a very rare disease and needs expensive medication. Although he is the main treating doctor, they still have not found a way to cure this disease. After hearing this, Master Lin sighed and said, "A person's fate is determined by destiny. I can only do this much. The rest depends on the child's fate." Da Wei listened thoughtfully for a moment, then the three of them parted ways, promising to meet again someday if they have the chance. Sitting in Fang's car, Da Wei looked around the city and couldn't help but exclaim, "This place is huge. I wonder if there are any girls to find like up in the mountains. Just need to give 10 pounds of rice each month and it's done." Fang shook his head and said, "Here is more advanced than in the mountain region. The beauties here are at least as beautiful as beauty queens, and if you want to provide, it has to be someone like Elon Musk." Da Wei couldn't believe it when he heard this. People in this bustling city have such high standards. Suddenly, a phone in the car rang with a navigation announcement, which made someone new to the city like Da Wei amazed. "Wow, second disciple, your phone is so advanced it even knows how to give directions. Is there someone inside?" Fan quickly explained, "This is just the installed map. Da Wei's phone can do this too, if you need it. I will install it for you later." At this point, Da Wei realized that he had been on the mountain for too long and really couldn't keep up with this fast-paced life. This was quickly heard by Fang, who reminded him, "It's best not to let Shi Fu hear, or he'll take both of us back to the mountains to farm." Suddenly, Fang asked, "Da Wei, you're almost home. Are you happy?" After a few seconds of thinking, Da Wei replied, "I don't know either. From now until we get there, we'll see." Shortly after that, at the Empire State Building, Da Wei and Fang arrived. Fang pointed and said to Da Wei, "This is my house. All I need to do in the future is to buy another Lamborghini, and then I can go flirting with some college girls." Seeing Da Wei standing dazed, Fang immediately asked, "Are you stunned by your own wealth that you behave like this?" It was then that Da Wei asked, "How should I speak to my parents when I meet them?" Before they could finish their conversation, a man suddenly walked out of the house. When he saw Fang, he immediately guessed that Da Wei was with him. He adjusted his glasses and asked if the person in front of him was really his son. "Da Wei, are you living well?" Before they could finish their conversation, a woman also rushed out of the house and hugged Da Wei. "Da Wei, you're finally back." When Da Wei looked to Fang for help, he realized something and quickly embraced his true emotions, hugging his parents and saying, "Mom, Dad, I'm back." As soon as Mr. Zun wanted to keep Fang to have a meal with them, Fang cleverly refused. "I don't want to ruin this family reunion, so I asked for permission to leave early." Upon entering the house, immediately a very unique-looking girl with rainbow-colored hair caught their attention. Her name was Zun Xiao Wen, often called Wen Wen at home. Soon after, Xiao Wen asked, "Mom, who is this country bumpkin?" Seeing himself being called a country bumpkin, Da Wei was a little angry, but still suppressed it because after all, today was a happy day and it wasn't convenient to cause trouble. Immediately, Da Wei's mother shouted loudly, "This girl, how dare you talk like that? That's your older brother. Quickly acknowledge your older brother." Upon hearing this, the two of them immediately looked at each other in surprise and asked, "We are siblings, aren't we? Didn't our parents pick up the wrong child?" Later, as they sat back on the fruit bench, Xiao Wen secretly thought, "How can this fat guy eat so well? And on top of that, he looks so rustic." Finally, it seems like Xiao Wen came up with something and spoke to Da Wei. "You want to come up to my room and take a look around?" Excited to visit, Da Wei didn't hesitate and agreed, so the two of them went upstairs together. After entering the room, the scene that greeted Da Wei made him once again confirm that, surely our parents picked up the wrong child. Why would anyone normal decorate their room with so many heads like this? Furthermore, the clothes were scattered everywhere, looking very messy. Suddenly, Da Wei was attracted by a snake nearby. He was focused on looking at the snake without knowing what kind it was. Meanwhile, Xiao Wen also brought out and showed her spiders to Da Wei. Look at my spider. This is the most expensive type of all. I had to spend a lot of money to buy it. It turned out that Xiao Wen was planning to use these insects to scare Da Wei. But after observing for a while, she was surprised to see that Da Wei was not afraid at all. And while Da Wei was still focused, Xiao Hai, one of her spiders, suddenly jumped on his face. This was beyond Xiao Wen's plan, so she hurriedly apologized to Da Wei. I really didn't mean to do that. Da Wei did respond. He held Xiao Hai in his hand and said, "This is not worth paying attention to because it's still just a small spider. I have a larger one. Do you want to see?" Upon hearing this, Xiao Wen was very excited. However, Da Wei still had to ask again, "Are you sure you won't be afraid?" Xiao Wen immediately bragged loudly, "I'm the bravest in the class. These insects won't scare me at all." To please his younger sister, Da Wei decided to open his box for her to admire. Looking inside, it was filled with snakes, centipedes, spiders, and countless other insects. As soon as Da Wei picked up a snake to show Xiao Wen, she had disappeared without a trace, and he saw her climbing onto the nearby cupboard to hide. Da Wei asked, "Didn't you say you weren't afraid at all?" To this, Xiao Wen quickly replied, "I'm not afraid at all." Ignoring that, Da Wei said, "Don't hesitate, come down here and pick one you like. I'll give it to you as a gift." Then Xiao Wen asked again, "Didn't you just say that there was a Latrodectus bigger than my Xiao Hai?" At this point, Da Wei did indeed pull out another, much larger Latrodectus which Xiao Wen had never seen before. Da Wei explained the Latrodectus is a highly venomous spider, but only when it's hungry or feels threatened. This one took me a long time to find, and some of them may attack others due to their aggressive nature. But if it attacks me, there are only two outcomes. Either it dies from the poison, or I eliminate it completely. After finishing speaking, Da Wei brought the spider in front of Xiao Wen and boasted, "It's very intelligent." Then Da Wei commanded the spider to stand at attention and salute. After seeing all this, Xiao Wen immediately changed his attitude from disdain to admiring Da Wei more than ever. When Da Wei arrived, he bragged and said, "I myself know many more impressive things than this." Upon hearing this, Xiao Wen quickly asked Da Wei, "Do you know how to race cars?" Da Wei immediately remembered Fang driving him home in a car that morning when he looked like a statue sitting stiffly in the car with a bewildered expression. Seeing Da Wei's embarrassed face, Xiao Wen wryly asked, "Don't tell me you don't know how to drive." To save face, Da Wei quickly replied, "Of course I know how to drive." Not only that, he even bragged, "I am known as the Dominic Toretto of Jin Fengshan." Upon hearing these words, Xiao Wen immediately said, "Tonight I will take Da Wei to the race to show these guys in the neighborhood what a real racer is like." At this point, Da Wei immediately thought to himself, "Holy shit, she's really talking big this time." As scheduled, that evening, the two brothers were at the abandoned parking lot, sitting in the car driven by Xiao Wen. Da Wei had a clearly expressionless face. After seeing the confident girl, the two arrogant young men spoke up sarcastically, "Oh, is little sis here to give us money again today?" At this point, another girl ran over and said, Wen, why are you just arriving now?" Getting out of the car, Wen replied, "What's up, Han? Is Yang Mao Ka here yet? He's been here for a while. Yang Mao Ka brought a speed demon with him, said to have just performed a drift for everyone here." Upon hearing this, Xiao Wen immediately responded, more like a Sunday driver, "My brother here is the real expert." From inside the car, Da Wei reluctantly stepped out, looking at Speed Demon with a somewhat untrustworthy look on his face. Then Wen introduced Da Wei to her friend Han. When he first met the beautiful girl, our young man blushed and scratched his head, saying, "Hello, baby. I'm Da Wei, Wen's brother." Even though his words were smooth, in Han's eyes from beginning to end, she only saw Da Wei as a pure and genuine country boy. From his innocent smile to his plain style of dressing, along with his clumsy and awkward manner, he seemed fit only for playing with toy cars, not for driving this race car. As soon as the two girls were about to discuss today's strategy, a voice from behind explained, Weh, Miss Zun Da Wei is here." It turns out that this is the name Yang Mao Ka that everyone was talking about earlier. Indeed, just as rumored, his face alone looked rough, not to mention the cigarette in his hand. He truly was a charismatic man. Yang Mao Ka continued, "Why is Miss Zun Da Wei here today? Still not satisfied with losing?" Infuriated, Wen replied without hesitation, "Don't talk too much. I don't believe every time you appear it's lucky for you." After saying that, she placed a suitcase on the table and opened it. She couldn't believe that it was filled with a lot of cash. Han was also surprised to see this, and she playfully said to Yang Mao Ka, "Today, Xiao Wen will definitely use this money to slap your face." To this, Yang Mao Ka responded, "Nobody's foolish here. Who complains when money comes straight to their mouth?" He then directly asked how Wen Wen wanted to compete today. According to her, she had $720,000, and in the first round, she would bet $200,000. Upon hearing this, Da Wei immediately tried to stop Xiao Wen, while Han Han teased, "Isn't your brother some kind of speed demon? Can't he beat Yang Mao Ka? One match, and he'll win them all." Turning to the present time, Da Wei also agreed with this matter and asked Yang Mao Ka, "How much do you want to bet on this race? And also, this race is only for one round." Then Yang Mao Ka replied, "This depends on Wen Wen's team. But if we lose, don't blame him for bullying children. This time I brought $3,200,000, and if we win, that money will all belong to Wen Wen." At this moment, Da Wei spoke up again. "Wait a moment." Yang Mao Ka, surprised, asked, "Are you scared already?" However, Da Wei took out all the remaining money from his pocket and gave it to Yang Mao Ka, saying, "Add my share to the bet." Looking at the pile of money in his hand, Yang Mao Ka couldn't help but laugh loudly. "Ha ha, speed demon, just a poor guy." Quickly, both sides went to the racetrack together. Seeing Da Wei struggling, Wen Wen asked, "Why haven't you prepared to go yet?" In response, Da Wei asked Wen Wen, "How does this car handle the racing track?" Upon hearing this question, she was very surprised. "Oh my, could it be that you don't know how to drive?" Da Wei escaped the season of sweat and replied, "Of course I do, but I used to drive a car that's not like this one." At this point, Wen Wen silently thought to herself, "Maybe Da Wei only knows how to drive a manual transmission, never driven an automatic one before. This is definitely a skilled person. Not just anyone can race an automatic car." She then proceeded to instruct Da Wei on how to drive this car step by step. As soon as Yang Mao Ka stood up to announce the racing rules, he said, "The rule of this race is that there are no rules." Immediately, Da Wei stepped on the gas and drove ahead. Seeing this, the wretched guy said loudly, "Oh, this is not running ahead, is it?" Wen Wen, sitting in the car, turned around and said loudly, "It's not your place to say. If this race has no rules, then running ahead is not a problem, right?" After saying that, the other racer also stepped on the gas and followed, thinking, running ahead doesn't guarantee a win. In this race, he will make Da Wei disappointed in his abilities. Just as Yang Mao Ka was celebrating his early victory, a teammate loudly announced, "Big brother, the car is here." He turned around and saw the car coming this way, which turned out to be Wen Wen's car, along with the fact that the shiny new car that was just now all messed up. Meanwhile, Da Wei was pushing the car towards the finish line. Then Yang Mao Ka spoke up, "Where's my speed demon?" Wen Wen replied, "He's pushing his car back there." As soon as the car crossed the finish line, Wen Wen shouted, "Is this a win?" Da Wei immediately approached Yang Mao Ka and said, "Thank you. That's a 5 times profit, right? I'll take all of this." And now that Speed Demon just pushed his car to the finish line too, he loudly said, "Big brother, he broke the rules, he played dirty. When he turned the car, he hit me, and I didn't know how to speed up. I almost died. Do you know that?" At this, people immediately rushed to Da Wei and asked loudly, "Do you think this is how things should be? Playing dirty like that? I'll tell your mother." Then Yang Mao Ka also stepped forward and said to Da Wei, "You have violated the rules, so you have to pay for the damages and give me your car." Hearing this, Da Wei immediately twisted and said, "Didn't you just say there were no rules earlier?" Wen Wen added, "Exactly, there are no rules to stop us from getting to the finish. Quickly pay up." At this, Yang Mao Ka immediately turned around. He and his people approached and said, "Are you planning to cause trouble? Look at how many of us there are. Why does the fat guy want to start a fight?" Seeing the situation going south, Wen Wen immediately took out her phone to call the police, but at that moment, Han Han from behind snatched the phone and brought it to Yang Mao Ka, whispering, "She's trying to call the police. Do something about it." This truly shocked Wen Wen. She couldn't believe that her own friend would betray her like this. Yang Mao Ka, holding the phone, laughed loudly, planning to call the police up. "That's clever. When they arrive, they might only be able to collect your bodies. Looks like I really got lucky tonight." To this, Han Han asked, "What exactly is your luck today?" The scoundrel immediately broke into a sly smile and replied, "Getting both the person and the money. Ha ha ha." However, before he could finish his sentence, Da Wei appeared and grabbed his finger, saying, "Who knows, if you lose both your life and your money, what will you do?" Without a word, Da Wei immediately broke Yang Mao Ka's finger, causing him to scream in pain. This scene surprised the people around, and they quickly rushed to gang up on Da Wei. However, Da Wei quickly jumped up and kicked each of them. The group of people, who were just confident, now begged for mercy. Only Yang Mao Ka remained, approaching to demand money. However, the notorious Yang Mao Ka said, "I don't have any money, and you better not come close." Feeling deceived, Da Wei immediately took out a spiritual insect and brought it to Yang Mao Ka's mouth, saying, "If you don't have money, then use this instead." Terrified, Yang Mao Ka had no choice but to take out all of his money to pay. Da Wei then turned to Wen Wen and said, "Check to see if the money is enough." After a while of checking, she cheerfully turned back to Da Wei and said, "Everything is all set." However, the police had arrived and demanded, "Everyone here, do not move. Anyone who moves will be shot." After a thorough check, the police officer reported back to the captain, "There are no signs of drug transactions here. This is simply a group of street racers and thrill seekers." Upon hearing this, the captain immediately ordered, "Arrest everyone here and take them to headquarters." At the police station, when it was Da Wei's turn to be questioned, he looked at the two police officers in front of him and felt very disappointed, silently thinking to himself, "Why aren't they female police officers? Isn't there always a situation with female police officers in novels?" Lost in thoughts about female police officers, Da Wei ended up answering that he was female when asked about his gender, which surprised the two police officers. What kind of woman looks this bad? However, immediately after that, Da Wei corrected himself and affirmed that he was 100% handsome. Seeing Da Wei getting anxious, the two police officers spoke up, "You have nothing to be afraid of, just cooperate and tell them everything." So according to Da Wei's words, he confessed, "That evening, Zito Wen and I heard there was an illegal street race, so we went to check it out. Neither of us expected the fight to break out and for this situation to happen. Upon hearing this, the police officer immediately refuted, 'When we arrived, we heard that you and Yang Mao Ka were fighting over money. Is that true?' Being discovered like this made Da Wei appear very surprised, but he quickly composed himself and said, 'That was Xiao Wen's money. That guy, Yang Mao Ka, saw that we were weak and planned to rob both of us. That's why it happened like that.' The police officer asked again, 'Are you telling the truth?' Da Wei said, 'I am telling the truth. You have to believe me. I am trustworthy.' Upon hearing this, the police officer stood up and said to Da Wei, 'You have participated in an illegal street race, so you will be fined $2,000 and detained for 3 days. When hearing this, Da Wei exclaimed in shock, "What? Two police officers, we were just passing by. We didn't do anything wrong. What you're doing is not right. It's unfair to me." Facing Da Wei, a police officer directly said, "Don't resist anymore. That car is clearly crashed by you. If it's not you, then maybe it's your sister, or we will temporarily detain her." Hearing that they wanted to arrest his sister to protect Xiao Wen, Da Wei immediately retracted and said, "I take all the blame on myself." Da Wei was given a pair of silver number 8 bracelets right in the interrogation room in accordance with his wish. Meanwhile, another police officer was shouting, "Zhang Langhua, are you tired of living? You led the team to catch those illegal street racers, only to end up catching a drug trafficking gang. Do you believe that I spread rumors that you're working for the drug traffickers so they can hunt you down?" Langhua sat in the chair, smiling lightly, and replied, "All right, Captain, do you think I'm scared? I gave you the intelligence information for cooperation. Now, if I stop giving it to you, what can you do to me? Do I sell drugs? You, as an officer, handle things so ridiculously. I figured it all out. If I give false intelligence, the worst you can do is detain me for 48 hours. If you touch a hair on my head, I will report you." The interrogation room was in chaos with this situation. Outside, after hearing this, Da Wei turned to the police officer next to him and said, "Officer, I tell you what, I'll help you catch that guy and make up for my mistake. So, you won't arrest me, right?" Before Da Wei could say anything else, the police officer said, all right, just shut up. You guys are going to prison like checking into a hotel. We can't do anything about it. We've been beating you guys up for a long time. We don't need you." After hearing this, Da Wei quickly responded, "Officer, I heard my friend. I promise not to beat him, but still make him confess. You have to trust me. I can handle this. I am very trustworthy." As the team leader left the interrogation room, the police officer quickly returned to discuss the issue that Da Wei had just presented. Shortly after, the team leader met privately with Da Wei to talk. The team leader spoke up and asked, "You big guy, do you know the consequences of teasing me? Are you sure you can handle it?" With a face that could not be more trustworthy, Da Wei confidently affirmed, "I can do it. You have to trust me." After that, the team leader instructed someone to release Da Wei's handcuffs and took him inside the interrogation room. Upon seeing Da Wei, Langhua whispered in his head, "Really? Where did this fat guy come from? Why did you guys bring him here?" Before he could speak, Da Wei spoke first. "You should speak. The police just want to know the intelligence. If I take action, it won't be just simple intelligence." Suddenly, someone unknown came and spoke before him. Langhua angrily shouted, "Who are you, you miserable fat guy? Who do you think you are, daring to talk to me like that?" Da Wei knew he couldn't speak up to this guy, so he scratched his head for a moment and said, "You brought this upon yourself, not my doing. With that, he immediately pulled out a needle from his pocket and stabbed it into Lang Ho's head. The captain was surprised by this scene, slamming his hand on the table, but still wanting to see what Da Wei was going to do next. Turning back, Da Wei started muttering something, urging Lang Ho to spill everything quickly. The sight of Da Wei in front of Lang Ho now appeared to be incredibly ruthless judge of the dead. Lang Ho begged the judge of the dead for mercy, and so he ended up revealing everything. His confession was so long that it took 2 stacks of paper to finish writing it all down. Even the smallest details of what he had done were recorded by the police. When the team leader signaled to stop, Da Wei began speaking to them. Zhang Lang Ho, I see that you are sincere and not hiding anything, so this time I will forgive you and allow you to return to your family. Quickly disappear. After speaking, Da Wei immediately gestured and Lang Ho woke up, still drowsy and constantly calling out for the judge of the dead. But as soon as he learned the team leader's intentions, he quickly joined the others in going after the drug dealers. At that moment, Da Wei quickly popped his head out from inside and said loudly, "Team leader, don't forget about me." Immediately, the team leader turned back in order to put an end to Da Wei's case, and the other person, Yang Mao Ka, was temporarily detained for 2 days and then released. As soon as Da Wei happily thought he would be able to leave, the captain pulled him into the waiting room. Upon arriving, the captain would personally talk to Da Wei. 3 hours later, the captain returned and said to Da Wei, "Da Wei, your case has been dropped. You have done a great job this time, so you will be rewarded for this." Da Wei quickly refused and said, "If possible, just release my younger sister, and that's enough."